Hello and welcome to today's tutorial on using your chapter's roster. We're going to go through a lot of information today, starting with how to find and navigate to your chapter roster, and then once you're there, how to really edit and update your members' profiles, how to manage any of the other information and roles that they've been assigned, as well as privileges and interests. We'll walk through how to do sorts and really be able to digest and further winnow down the information that you're looking for, and then also manage an opt-out list as well as your exports and imports for your membership. So with that, let's jump right in. And we're going to start today by showing you where to actually find your chapter roster. There's two simple ways to get there. Once you are logged in to Community, and you can find that out by seeing your profile name in the green banner up top here, you can access your chapter roster by searching for chapter roster. Nice quick link should give you that first hit. You can also go back to your dashboard, and on the left hand side here, all of these blocks are your personalized links. So your bookmarks, your own groups, and your tools. If you are marked as a chapter admin, you'll have access to the chapter roster, and it'll show up right here in this block. So I'm going to click on chapter roster. All right, so we have landed here after that beautiful little CCL animation on the chapter roster homepage. You can see up top here again that if you ever want to go back to the tools menu or your dashboard, there's a little breadcrumb trail. You can always click back here to navigate as well. And you can also see that if you want a quick reminder of how to download or print your chapter roster, this little step-by-step instruction will show you that way. And this links you back to the training video actually that you're watching right now on getting help editing your chapter roster. So that's the top navigation areas. Let's go to the chapter roster contact info tab and start scrolling down and focusing on the rest of this information below. You can see a note on opt-outs. Sometimes members can be opted out unintentionally. Again, that often happens by people forwarding messages and having the unsubscribe link at the bottom that people then would accidentally unsubscribe for somebody else on. So that's always a great best practice to recommend removing that. And we'll get into where you can find email opt-outs in a little bit. Below this, you can see that we have 8 tabs: roster contact information, roster details, privileges and interests, new members, email opt-outs, export, and add members. We're going to go through each of these in depth to really walk through the features that you can utilize while you're using your own roster. Below those tabs, you can see instructions that really will change depending on which tab you click on. You can see it shifts depending on here. It gives you information for each of these. And under the roster contact info, that's the default landing tab, because that really has the most information that was really germane or relevant for you as a chapter leader or admin. I've actually filtered this view already on my name only so that we don't provide any personal identifiable information for other volunteers. But again, this roster for CCL Lexington, Kentucky has 177 total members, and you can change this filter. Let's just say I only wanted to show people by the last name of Cease. So now you can see Julia, myself, and my test user. I'm going to go back to Brett. That narrows down the search. You would just type in the keyword and then click apply or enter. And then below that, you can see you can filter also by districts, by cities, by activity level, by the date that this person that you're looking for was created, or your group, if you want to only look for perhaps people that have joined since May, for example. So you would then search by, let's say, May 1st, 2019, and then you want to say today's date. So we'll do it as August 12th, and then hit enter, and then hit done, and then you'd apply it. And now look what happens. All of a sudden, the people that I had selected disappear. And this is the really key thing to understand with these search criteria. They stack on top of each other. So right now, what I'm actually looking for is anyone in the Lexington chapter that's joined between April 30th and now named Brett. and unfortunately there hasn't been anyone else. So you can always clear filters to make sure that you're not cumulatively searching too much, and then make sure to click apply and do things one at a time if you don't want to stack search on top of created date or interests. That's the last criteria you can see here. So here's the cool thing. If you are interested, let's say you have a really big roster. If you are just getting up and started, you don't have to worry about this. But say your roster is hundreds of people, or maybe even over 1,000 like some of our chapters. If you are really wanting a quick, efficient way to sort and figure out who is actually showing up to meetings or has been participating locally, this activity status, I can't say enough of how effective this is to really constrain your search results down to who you're looking for. And you can see here we have, again, different criteria from very active all the way down to not active. All of these are assigned manually. CCL headquarters doesn't, determine who's going to be marked as active because they've done X number of actions and then they're automatically upgraded. This is your determination as the chapter admin to figure out who you want to select. And then you also have options for moved away or new prospect if you want to use those, even for other, different criteria that maybe aren't this way. Some chapters now use these for the ability to, have another criteria. Let's say if they wanted to sign up for text alerts locally or your other outside group, then you'd be able to have that mean moved away equivalently. All right, the last thing that you can also use the sorting and filtering features for that we've explored is each of these little up and down arrows. If you have a long list and you want to make sure to be able to have all of the information alphabetized by one of these specific columns, just click on one of these arrows and it will automatically sort that whole list by whichever one of these you've selected. This is also available on the other tabs, but say you want to sort specifically by city to really get a good feel for that, or by zip code. You can also kind of make sure that it resorts by zip code. The other key thing is this current interface only loads the roster up to 50 or 100 at a time, depending on how you select the settings down at the bottom here. So you can always expand the setting by clicking on the next button. If you have a lot more names listed here than what's currently being filtered, you can add and have your preset show up to 50 or 100 names per display, and then you can always arrow over to add more and upload more. And after you do that, you'll be able to sort through all of those featured. Before then, if you click these little sort up and down arrows, it'll only use the ones that are currently displayed. So if you have a large roster, it'll be important to scroll down to the bottom and open this up first to display more of those names, or to narrow your search down to a specific criteria so that you have less to sort through. You also have the ability, again, to edit all of these by going in directly to that user's name. I'll click Edit, and all of this information you can see changes if you lifetime update. Now, it might take an overnight sync for it to show up everywhere, when that just means that some of the data that we enter then gets imported to our database. There's an overnight trigger that makes sure that our database in the cloud is synchronized with our community platform in the cloud. So it may take up to 24 hours to show up if you change things, but know that it should be there by the next day. And let's just go through these. So again, a lot of these have question marks as well. So if you have questions about how to input the data, you can always click on these question marks. So first name, last name, email, alternative email, if you're also interested in that. Changing this individual's chapter to another Kentucky group. As soon as you save that, what this reminds you of is that after you've changed and saved that status, they won't appear in your roster anymore. That's going to go to the other group. They're going to be notified in their weekly new member email, and you won't be able to access them anymore. So be careful to be doing that intentionally. You can't actually change the district because that is important information that we want to make sure is accurate. You can either email membership@headquarters.citizensclimatelabbey.org. That's all spelled out here with the question mark. Or you can encourage your individual, if you know that they've changed districts, to update their own form. And I'll show you how to do that in just a little bit. You can update phones and mobiles. Again, this information helps reveal the most helpful format to enter this information in. City, state, zip code, the activity level for anyone you could update here. The notes, let's say that you wanted to start, keeping track of your call tree every month. So for May, you wanted to enter 2019, Brett said he couldn't make it. But then, you can start seeing, April, no answer. You could start really building out a more robust note system by using this. You could also use it to indicate any other ongoing conversations, plans, other information that you'd like to make sure that other chapter admins are aware of. Now let's walk through each of these actual roles or privileges on the right-hand side, because each of these is going to be, I think, a really important thing to distinguish if you haven't figured out yet. So in the edit screen, I'm on the right-hand column, and let's talk about each of these 5 roles. So if you click on chapter admin and you want this person to have access to that, what that means is that they're going to have access to the roster. They're also going to have access to your group in community and the ability to email everyone from that group. They're going to have the ability to post events and do other admin type activities, like including setting up chapter teams for your group if they have that one chapter admin box checked. If you want them to edit your external CCL webpage, the one that shows up in Google search results often, that's what this chapter page editor is, and there's another tutorial on that. If you want them to receive reports, like all the field report updates or the information every month about what LTEs you've generated, but that person isn't interested in becoming a group leader, then this button is helpful for them to still get in the loop and have those automated reports from CCL headquarters without having to take on the full responsibility of being a group leader. If you want to have a media manager, that box would be checked here for receives media materials. Essentially what that person will then be signed up to receive is any ongoing media packets and press releases from CCL's communication team. Let's say there's a big update with the Energy Innovation Act, or the next op-ed is being pitch written by Mark. All that information is available for them then to be able to receive and check that box for them to get that. Lastly, the chapter influencer manager is really, you can think of as your grass tops local head. This box, if it's checked, really allows them to be able to manage all of the information for your chapter in the grass tops engagement tracker and really be able to update that information in a timely manner. And we can get into that in another training as well. So let's say I wanted to have all of this information for Brett's test user updated. I'm going to keep this person in Lexington, so I'm not going to ship them over to Danville. I would then click Save. You don't ever leave the screen without clicking Save because the information won't save otherwise. And there you go. We can go back just to make sure it caught. All of those are still checked. And that's your information as far as being able to update any individual member's contacts. Let's talk about each of these other tabs though. So roster details is not only the main contact information, it gives you information in terms of activity status, again, the join date, as well as whether this individual has attended our informational session or our online climate advocate training. That's what info session and CAT stand for. You can see whether they've opted in to receive our national text message updates to remind them for calling days or when there's other big high impact actions to take or webinars that we're announcing last minute. You can see their conservative caucus status here. And you can also see any notes that they have been able to enter throughout the year. You can lastly see this source if that person has been referred from a specific individual or a big campaign like Reddit or another big volunteer match. Oftentimes those will show up here in the source. All right, so let's talk about privileges next. So privileges then really help walk through all 5 of those roles that we've just talked about. If you're curious or can't remember what each of those does, they're spelled out right here. You can also edit the screen pretty easily, again, by just clicking on edit. But again, then all of those will show up and will be sortable depending on who in your chapter you're searching for. And again, I've narrowed this down to Brett's for the sake of data privacy. Interest tab, I clicked on this next one, the 4th one over, and you can narrow down by interests. You can also use this tab to enter interests, not only for searching who currently has them, but to also assign interests for chapter members that you know have them, maybe haven't done it themselves yet. So let's show you how to do that. I just click on this blue button to the right, and then you can see all of these options are available. I can easily click on one of them. It'll show up on that list. And then any of these that you want to have checked, you want to make sure still to save that update. So now let's say I'm only interested in showing my chapter and members that are named Brett that also are only interested in writing letters to the editor. So I'm going to apply that, and you can see, oh, well, look, perfect. Both of them showed up. Let's say I'm only interested now, and again, you'd have to only have one of these at a time and uncheck those if you don't want to have both of them show up, in those that are interested in public speaking. That's really a key feature for you to be able to use and narrow down and keep updated if you're interested in really being able to segment and target specific opportunities for specific volunteers in your chapter. New members. So this is a great tab that shows all of the group members that have showed up and signed up for your chapter in the last 60 days. Now I blocked out all of the information on them just for the sake of privacy, but you can see their email, phone, city, state, zip code, and source here, including whether, again, they've joined via Volunteer Match or Reddit, any of the other local activities, and that's really helpful information to be able to target and have somebody in your group be able to access that new membership and keep those notes updated. Email opt-outs is a really important area to figure out and know where to go. So there's a list of people assigned who have opted out to your chapter, and they're not then receiving newsletters, weekly bulletins, any other bulk email from CCL. They still might get some CCL messages from community, but that should also be unselected. And in general, you should assume that they no longer want to receive information from your chapter unless you have reason to suspect otherwise. Say your most reliable lieutenant is showing up here all of a sudden, you haven't heard that they're not interested, then you can easily follow up with them just to make sure to confirm. But otherwise, make sure to remove them from your contacts. And if you see somebody here that shouldn't be on the list, just email membership@citizensclimate.org. And again, if they want to opt out and they can't figure out how to opt out, they can also email membership@citizensclimate.org. Recently, we've made an update for that email opt-out date to be much more visible here under this tab. So again, that is email opt-outs. Export. Now this used to be a much more prominent feature before we had the ability to email everyone from your community group. But this export tab still allows you, if you go down to the very bottom, to actually export the list that you would like to have on your own personal hardware. All right, so it will export also your narrowed list. Say you only want to show people from a congressional district. And then what you do is you will just click this export list. It'll download on your own downloads, you can see right here. And then if you open it up, all of that information is available in a CSV or an XLS file for you to be able to use and also communicate with. Now, for data privacy concerns, we want to make sure that as soon as you're done using this, that you delete the list. You don't keep it around or have it, for somebody else to stumble on. Given the privacy policies that we have, and we want to honor for our volunteers. And we also don't want you to upload this list to the cloud somewhere. It's really key that we don't have an additional roster somewhere for any group. If you are using the roster, feel free to share that with other chapter admins in your group, but we don't need to have a separate email list that you're keeping updated in the cloud for other people just due to data privacy concerns. All right, the other key thing is if you do download this list and then use it to email your group separate from community, you want to make sure to put all of those emails in the BCC line. Don't put them directly in the to field so that everyone can see each other's email. Again, just to really honor the data privacy of all volunteers that have signed up for CCL and don't want their information given out and farmed out to any other potential listserv. You want to make sure to be careful to not reveal any of that personal identifiable information. All right, so the last area that we want to talk about tonight is that of adding members. So say you just got done with a big tabling event or a great presentation that you gave locally, and you have a list of, 8 different people that have signed up. Well, this Add Members tab is going to be convenient for you to be able to search first and foremost to see if that individual has already been entered into CCL's master database. And then if they haven't, you'll be able to add that member directly right here. So again, I'll walk through how to do this, but I'll also say this. If you have more than 10 members, there's a master spreadsheet that you can download with this link right here, and then you can send it to membership@citizensclimatелobby.org, and they'll do a bulk import for you. So you would just enter it into a spreadsheet rather than directly into the members tab of your chapter roster. And then membership will take care of you if you have a list of more than 10 individuals from a local event. So let's say I met this great guy. His name is, Brett Cease, and I'm just going to see if his information is available. So I click search after typing in the name that I looked through in my little sign up, and I try to make it as accurate as possible. Now, it looks like nobody is available at that email. So then what I would do is I would click Add Member, and then from there, I would fill out the rest of the information that I had available for this new individual. Just like we showed you ahead of time, it's great if you also, in adding members, can identify a source for you to keep track of later. You can start with a simple date, say you met them the 5th of May, 2019 at the Young Conservatives Forum in Lexington, whatever it might be, right? And then let's say you also wanted to keep some notes, chatted for 10 minutes about energy storage and carbon capture, just so that you can remember what their interests are later when you come back to circle around and give them a call. You can assign their activity status, any of this other information. If you did find them at a tabling event, it's great to check that box just so that we can keep track of who are seeing at outreach or tabling events. And then when you're ready, click Save. I'm not going to save this just because it's a fictional user, but click Save, and this data will capture and upload again into our larger database. All right, so in summary, we've reviewed all of the 8 tabs and how to access the roster and really begin to utilize it for your own local efforts. The key things that I would really emphasize as you, as a new and upcoming group leader, are getting used to this tool to really wrap your mind around are to remember that you can always use that edit field to keep things updated, and you can always make sure to keep active notes, and also keep in mind that all of these roles, these privileges on the right-hand side, are assignable by you. The most important one probably as you get your chapter up and running is this chapter admin one. Now, for groups that are high-flying, already have a lot of membership, the next level is really being able to take advantage of that activity status to really filter and focus your outreach efforts for your local groups depending on that, as well as those interest fields now. Please feel free to reach out to us. Again, this training is posted on Community. You can always reach out on the forums. We'd love to answer anything that you post and ask us anything forum. We hope that you found this training useful, and we look forward to seeing you out in the field with the great work that you're going to do in your roster. Thanks, everyone, and have a great night.